a few seconds. Okay, we should be live now.
Good evening. Welcome to the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting for March 30th, 2022. Time is now 6:33 p.m. Let's start out by introducing ourselves. Ashley?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Ashley Pineda, Board Trustee and parent of two.
David Warner, Board Trustee, Committee Chair, proud parent of a Woodlands High School graduate. Chris?
Chris Vallon, Board Trustee, parent of two.
Zach?
I'm Zachary Baker. running the live stream on YouTube. I'm from BOCES and work at Greenburgh Central.
Fred?
Fred Seba from BBS Architects and Engineers.
Katie?
Hi, Katie McGee, parent of a 7th grader.
Steve?
Steve Morton, parent of two at Woodland High School.
Jessica?
Hi, Jessica Muldoon, LFJ parent.
And more. Lisa?
Lisa Raymond, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Denise?
All right, good evening, everyone. Denise Alamo. Treasurer for the PTA Council and parent of twins that are currently in 4th grade at Bailey.
Jackie?
Hi, guys. Sorry for the delay. Hi, I'm Jackie Burton. I am the communications consultant for the district. Nice to see you all.
Nice to see you. Gabriella?
Hi, everyone. I'm Gabriella Barahona, mom of 3 boys, one at Highview, one at LFJ, and a 2-year-old.
Megan?
Hi, everyone. I have a daughter in LFJ and a son in ECP this year.
Sarah?
Hi, Sarah Lazari, a community member.
Okay. Carol?
Carol Allen, community member.
Dave?
Hi, Dave, father of two, one in ECP and one in LFJ.
All good. Anyone I missed? All right, then. So let me see if I can share my screen. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Zach, can you enable my screen sharing?
You should be able to now.
Okay. So can everyone see the agenda for tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So we just did introductions. So the next thing should be the minutes of the previous meeting. And let's see if I can get to, that was not it. Go the other direction. There. Can people see minutes?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so these are the minutes from last time. I think I took a roll call at the very beginning of the meeting. If you want to take a look and make sure that I'm not missing anybody. This is back on February 16th. We adopted the minutes at that point of the previous meeting. We talked about finance issues, including the budget development process and the tax cap calculation. Lisa Raymond led a lot of this discussion. Whether proposition recommendation should be presented to the board by April 19th for the May 17th budget vote. That is, in the past, we've done things like if you want to put some money in the repair reserve, you put a proposition up for people to authorize, for the voters to authorize it. Did we need to do something like that, or were we going to rely on transferring things over by means of of having votes of the Board of Education. And I think in certain cases you can do that. Lisa, did we resolve that? I thought you confirmed that what we were planning to do, we could do by board resolution. Is that true? Or do we still need a proposition?
No, I think that we can do it as a resolution with the board vote for the budget.
And is that going to apply to the repair reserve fund
Correct.
as well? Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Then we talked a little bit of about the comprehensive annual financial report, and that usually led into what was going on with auditing, since I think we got the external audit to the point at which we could actually go forward with that. But we've got to get through budget season, I think, before we go back and look at that. The Warburg property boundary issue, one shed remains over the property line. We were going to get an estimate on the cost of a boundary fence. Mike Falcone sent me an email. He's not going to be able to make it tonight. So Lisa, did he give you anything on that?
No, not an update.
Okay. Okay, we talked about the internal audit status and that that there was an additional set of audits from 2021 that we were going to go back and complete, and that's Chris Valens. Chris, do you have anything to add to that? That's
Nothing
Chris, as the chair
material.
of the audit committee.
No, we accepted the reports. No, nothing material for tonight.
Okay, good.
If anyone has questions, feel free to email me.
Okay. Then we talked about Warburg campus fire hydrant issues. We reviewed option 2 of the recommendation to the Board of Education, and we ended up passing a resolution to accept option 2, the $814,000 option, which adds the 2 additional fire hydrants to the Woodlands campus. So that's all good. We wanted to thank Peter Aquilino and Daniel Lester for joining us in the meeting and providing information on that. Then we reviewed the status of all the facilities projects. We're going to do that again tonight. So I think we can look at this in a little more detail when we go back to our own agenda. And I'll probably have to pretty much read through it since a few things have been fixed since then. I think we've got some lights in place that we didn't have before, but a lot of it's similar. We briefly discussed a project spreadsheet with Lisa Raymond. Tonight we're going to have something slightly different. We're going to have a summary sheet of all of the projects, basically showing all the sources of fund. There are many sources of funding that we've got to cover our projects. The many projects that we kind of have on our plate, either recently completed or in the process of being completed, and where we'll be at the end of the next fiscal year in terms of how much money we've got left, based upon all of those projects. So stay tuned for that. We did briefly discuss the mansion status. The $1.6 million for the roof is pretty much all we've settled on so far, and it looks like, as you'll see later, we have money for that. The ECP 3-year-old funding, federal and New York State, neither source has come back with any increase. I don't know if it's possible through the local funding sources to increase the student count for 3-year-olds, and I don't know how significant that is. We have to go back and look at that. Lisa, do we have anything on that yet? I think you're
muted, Lisa.
Muted.
I'm sorry. We don't have anything yet. We've
Okay.
inquired, but we don't have anything yet.
Okay. Then we talked at a high level as to on our project phases. Phase 1, which is the thing that's in NYSED awaiting approval for construction this summer, which is basically most of the ventilation fixes, all the places that have fans in the windows. So ECP especially, and RJ Bailey, and some other areas as well as a portion of the Highview roof. Then phase 2, which we're going to work on right after we come through. I hope we come to a realization, a decision on the energy performance contract tonight, or at least a recommendation for that. And then we can start working on this. And the priorities are what's in the building condition survey, priority 1 and 2, possibly increasing the number of ECP classrooms, working on building envelopes, and any existing or remaining ventilation issues. If you really want to do something significant, that would require a bond proposition. The cost could partially be offset by end of year fund balance reserves. We're coming in with about 1.3 million per year each year. I think we budgeted for that again this year. The administration is going to be developing a proposal for that, so we'll look forward to that. Then we reviewed the energy performance contract RFP status, and we had, and that is a closed session item. So once we come to a decision on that, and we're going to try and make a recommendation tonight, if all goes well, but we have to do the debate in closed session. Then we'll talk about that. And of course, we did have our guests, Peter Aquilino and Daniel Lester from the fire department, included in that discussion. So that was pretty much it for last time. Anybody see anything that needs to be corrected or added?
I move we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes adopted. Okay, on to finance. Now let's see if I can. So, obviously it's budget season. And so the thing that we were planning to do tonight was to first go over draft 2. That is, Lisa will go through the draft 2 presentation, and then we'll bring up a draft which I did include on the Google Drive, draft 2 of the budget line by line, and answer any questions anyone has. And so, Lisa, take it away.
All right, you got it, David. This is the draft 2 budget of the 2022-23 budget. Next screen, please. It's the tax cap calculation. This is the nexus, let's just say, of our tax or our budget. So here is where we figure out what the budget tax cap that we can not exceed. All right, so we take our prior tax year levy, we multiply it by our tax growth factor, which was 1.147 for this year. And we add in our pilot payments, which are our payments in lieu of taxes. And we
Just a moment.
subtract it.
You need to mute yourself if there's a conversation going on.
I don't have any conversations going
No,
on.
it's not you. It's not you. It's another person. Go ahead.
Okay.
David, sorry, David, you as host have the ability to mute others?
That's a good question. The question is, how to identify the person. I think we've got it. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's start from the top. Our tax cap calculation, we start with our tax levy from this school year. And then we multiply it by the tax base growth factor, which is 1.0147. So that means that our tax base, our community has grown in industry by 1.47%. Then we add in our pilots, which are payments in lieu of taxes, which are companies who have come into our district who want to establish themselves, but they want a tax relief And that's what the county gives them. That's why they're called pilots and payment, pilots in lieu of payments. And then we subtract out our capital exclusions, which are basically our BOCES payments. And then we multiply it by our levy growth factor, which is the CPI, Consumer Price Index, and it can't be over 2%. This year it is over 2%, but we're capped at 1.02. Then we add in our pilots that we project that we're going to get next year, and our capital exclusions that we know that we will be liable for, so that our tax levy limit will be $65,599,068. That is the maximum that we could go for our taxes not to exceed 50% plus one vote in the tax levy. So from the first draft of what Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso, and I proposed to this one, to this draft two, we are omitting the school resource officer and some professional development, because we can put that in a federal grant that we just got acknowledgement on. And then we are going to reallocate some of our salaries into federal grants and or BOCES lines, so that we can maximize our efforts. So we are proposing a draft two budget of $74,547,968, which is a 2.12% increase. And on the revenue side, which would reduce the tax levy to 1.47%. If you look at that by major expenses by function, functions are general support, instruction, pupil, transportation, employee benefits, debt service, and interfund transfers. So if you look at that and you compare it from this year to draft one to draft two, and what our differences are, we are proposing that we reduce this budget from what we originally proposed to this draft of $479,884. You will see here, if you remember from last year, we proposed to consolidate all of the monies that were collected in different accounts to be put to the capital reserve for phase one. We are proposing this year that the excess fund balance of $1,426,274, which is over from last year, we want to put that back into the capital fund so that we can do the mansion roof repairs. So that is listed here separately. And that is because that is money that is already there. It has nothing to do with the taxpayers, it has nothing to do with the tax levy. We just want to indicate it to the taxpayers. This is what we want to do, and we want your approval to do it.
Any questions? Okay.
Okay, so as far as the capital interfund transfers are concerned, we are proposing $1.3 million this year to go into the capital fund, and we want to do three things. We want to repair or replace the high school gym floor, the RJ Bailey gym floor, and we need to work on and improve the fire hydrants at the high school, which has been a concern. The excess money of the 1.426 million, we want to use that money to replace the mansion roof. And on the expenditure side, which we just showed, this is the revenue side that will show how we would do all of that work. So we want to remind people that our budget is May 17th, 2022. We have decreased from the draft 1 to draft 2 by almost 0.678, almost 7% or 0.7% of the tax levy. We could go up to 5.04, but we know that that is not what our taxpayers would like. And we recognize that. And we're trying to be cognizant of all of that, but we're trying to provide a budget that is in line with what we need for the next school year. Our budget is May 17th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Woodlands Middle School, High School Gymnasium.
Thank you. Carol Allen, you raised your hand?
I would like to comment that I'm disappointed that there doesn't seem to be any significant expenditure planned in the budget for any of these serious building deficiencies, such as roofing, parapets, things like that. Now, I understand we're talking about addressing that in phase 2, but I think it's a serious oversight if we do not put into the budget money to spend on those projects. We could be asking for a bond for the gym floor or the fire hydrants if we need to raise money for that. But to plan to spend 1.3 million on gym floors and fire hydrants and not definitively state we're going to fix some of the water and roofing issues in the buildings, I think is a major deficiency.
And would you push us to the point of the maximum that the tax cap will allow? Or is there a chunk that you think is a reasonable expenditure?
I am not saying that we should be increasing the tax levy. I am saying that we should be addressing the major deficiencies which we have known about for 3 to 4 years before we prioritize the newer issues that are of lesser importance. Our buildings are not going to fall down if the gym floors are replaced. Our buildings will fall down if water enters them through the roofs and the supporting structures of the building become deficient and weak.
My understanding is that there is termite damage to the floors, and it's to the point at which you don't want to be making a jump shot and you come down and then the floor gives way under you. That's a safety issue. So
I understand that, but our buildings, we have been we had a major bond push. We were trying to raise $114 million a few years ago because our buildings were in bad condition, and we're not addressing that. I know that we're addressing it on the side, but that, I believe, is something that should be first and foremost in the budget.
Okay. Jessica?
Hi, I'm following up. I had sent Lisa a bunch of questions earlier, but the specific one, and thank you, David, for sharing the line-by-line budget, was about the allocation of funds for field trips and library supplies. And I was just curious about the different values that were assigned, especially at LFJ and Highview. And since both schools have 2 grades, I was wondering why they don't have the same value.
They are the values of what each school has represented in their budget.
Okay. I guess I'm seeing this as an equity piece of, we want to make sure that all students have equal access, and just wondering if there's been any discussion about doing a per pupil allocation that would then make sure that even if, that each school has equal access to supplies, and principals may not be budgeting in that same way. And I'm thinking as having a child who's going to Highview next year and one who's moving into the LFJ or moving into ECP and then to LFJ, I want to make sure they have equal access to resources. So
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And you're right. exactly what you're saying. Whatever they need, we give them. It might not be what is budgeted, but it can cross lines.
Got
So,
it. Okay.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
not that amount is not the cap that they can go to.
correct.
This is just how you're outlining it to begin with. Okay, that's
Correct.
helpful to know.
Mhm.
Okay. So if there's a wonderful trip that comes up next year and there are ways that they can propose it and align it to academics, then
Yes.
can go ahead.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. Yep.
Thank you. The other ones are not, I think, urgent. Recent questions that I had at the moment.
And you know what, Jessica,
Well, page
I
2 in
apologize
a
if I haven't
couple minutes.
answered you, but just re-email me and I will get back to you.
That's okay. I emailed you this afternoon. I wasn't expecting
Okay.
but answers on all of them. That was the only one that was I wanted to have more of a discussion on. Thank you.
All right, you got it.
And the wheels in my mind are turning a little slowly. Going back to Carol Allen's concern, I think we do end up with a significant amount of money still in the repair reserve fund. And it may be that we can, timing wise, look at making some repairs from the building condition survey list using that money. And we'll see if that puts a dent in things. But we'll get to that when we look at the spreadsheet. Katie.
Oh, hi. Okay, so you just might have answered my question. I might save that for when we look at the spreadsheet, but I was just gonna ask, while we were on the topic, you mentioned the termite damage for the high school. What's the reasoning for replacing the Bailey gym?
There's a soft area in the gym, and it's also damaged and not able to handle stress like it could, because it's got holes in it, I believe. Lisa, do you know more than I do?
Nope, exactly the same. Yep.
And I was just wondering, because you picked those and the hydrants, obviously, which came up more recently, but
their safety.
Did you have a amount in mind, and the 2 gym floors fit in that amount, or they rose to the top of the priority list? I understand also kind of that's my question.
So those gym floors, Mike Falcone has been in contact with people that would replace it, and that's where our estimates have come from. I don't know if that would be any less or any more. Not with today's and what's going on in our economy. This is what we're estimating that it would be for right now.
Right, and I didn't do the math beforehand, but I'm guessing, so between the hydrants and the 2 floors, it adds up to the 1.3 million that we usually.
It's close. It's very close. If you look at my spreadsheet, which I'm sure David will share with us later, there's about $160,000 that is in difference, and I'm thinking that is a good estimate for a leeway of what is going to happen when we get our bids.
Okay. And then we have the phase 1 work that is
in process.
Right, from our current budget.
Approval, right.
Or current pots of money, right? And then we're hoping, I guess, Lisa, do you have any idea when administration would come up with a bond proposal?
Well, I would think that it's not going to be a bond proposal. It's already in the works. The public has said that we could do it, and we're just waiting with BBS, our architects, to get approval from SED, from the State Education Department Facilities Planning. We're just waiting for that.
That's phase 1.
Wait, I don't mean phase 1. I meant as
phase 2.
Phase 2.
Oh, phase 2. I'm sorry. Phase 2, we're still in the process of producing that.
Okay.
David, if I may interject, I think isn't part of the reason why we're waiting on the proposal is to decide the energy performance contract.
We were hoping the energy performance contract would take care of certain things. So, for example, the windows in the cafeteria at Woodlands, right? It looks like that's an insulation issue amongst other things. But none of the, well, I can't talk about that, right? It's closed session. But
that impact.
Right, but whatever the outcome of the energy performance contract is, and they go and do a detailed study, then that was going to knock some things off the list at no net cost to us, right? And therefore, we were working down the list without it impacting the budget. But it won't do everything. So maybe I'm hearing Carol saying we need to do a little more. Okay, and maybe a lot more. Dave.
Just a quick question about the gym floors. Are we having a BBS involved with making sure everyone's bidding the same thing, so there isn't a big spread of bids and cost? And like, who's making sure that, you know, at least we're soliciting the right information? Or is a gym floor and everybody knows what that is?
Hey, Lisa.
Well, you know, Mike Falcone is not able to be here tonight, but we have a contractor that does this work, and he has contacted them to see what would it be. But I would say, yes, we will put it out to bid or RFP to make sure that we get the best price and the lowest price for the district.
That's with BBS doing specs, or who's doing the specs for the RFP?
Yes, we will consult with BBS, definitely.
All good. Okay, other questions? All right, so now, let's see if I can move to another. That'll be the spreadsheet. We wanted to go through the budget first, right? So this may take a minute. There we go. Okay, so this was budget draft 2. And if anybody had a chance to go over budget draft 2 a little bit in advance, I hope you did. We will just page through from front to back. Dave, you have a question?
No, sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay. So we'll start out here on the first page with Board of Education, and I'll start scrolling, and people tell me when I reach something where you have a question. My first question is not until about page 11. So, but I've been over this budget before. So first you have the Board of Education stuff, the district clerk, chief school administrator, business administrator, all the, and here's the auditing stuff, legal, personnel, records management, public information services. Here we get into the plant operations summations, right? There's the fuel oil, the infamous fuel oil costs, the electricity costs. The maintenance, all the equipment, all the equipment stuff. Let's see, what page am I on? I'm on 9. And maintenance supplies. And here we are. And the first thing I see, what I tend to do is I look and I say, okay, I've got my account, I've got my description, I've got my proposed budget for this year, I've got my budget from last year, and I look for major changes that I don't think I already know the reason why for. And I see here that we have a whole bunch of copier leases for the various schools that have gone from 35K each to 0. And then I look down and I see, I think a little further down there, maybe a BOCES number that went up that correspond.
Correct.
Yeah, right there.
Correct.
So 300 to 475. So what happened here, Lisa?
So we went with BOCES for our copier leases. Instead of us doing it individually with, say, Xerox, we went through BOCES to go through Xerox which would give us BOCES aid, which would give us more money on the revenue side. That's what happened.
Okay.
Does that impact the service time if there's service calls?
No, not at all. Not at all. We worked it out so that it seamlessly worked from month to month, and we're really in good shape with them. And you got to remember, our BOCES aid is like 56%. So by taking this money, putting it over to BOCES, we're getting 56% aid back to us. So when we look at the revenue side, you'll see that our revenue has increased from last year to this year by about 200,000 or more. And that's because of part of this.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. My next question is on page 16. If anybody's got anything prior to that. The refunds on real property taxes, you told me that while I expected there to be more of an issue with this, it appears that in the short run, there's less.
Yes, exactly. Because our refund of property taxes, the majority of what we refund is big properties, big corporations I don't want to say that it's not the little homeowner. It is, but that's what we budget for. But it's more of the big corporations. That's why we have the tax certiorari reserve. We put money in there and we transfer it out when those things are settled. So I've looked at the last 3-4 years, and I have seen that we don't need to budget as much in our budget to refund people because it's already in the tax certiorari reserve. So I'm confident that we can decrease this amount.
Okay. Then all the curriculum development expenditures. The secretarial staff salaries.
Mhm.
Research planning evaluation. Here we go, page 16. We have here towards the top, $60,000 teaching regular school. That's district-wide teacher salary K6. 60,000 one year, up to 241,000 the next year. Does this have to do with the reading and math coaches?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
So basically, we're not going to have administrators to oversee reading and math. We're going to have people who act as coaches to the teachers in these subject areas, and they will not have supervisory authority, and therefore they're, I guess, under the teachers union. Am I correct in that?
Correct. Mhm.
Okay. But that's an initiative to try and up our game.
Correct.
In terms of reading and math. Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Any questions or comments on that? Okay, then page 17.
David, I just have to say, as you keep scrolling through this, which is fine, excuse me, we went through line by line, salary code by salary code, and just made sure that everybody was accounted for in every avenue. I can't explain or I can't talk to what has happened in the past. I just wanted to make sure everybody that we are paying now are in these codes. Whether it is an increase or decrease, everybody is where they should be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Katie?
Yeah. I had a question, Lisa, about, I guess it was a couple of places in the teaching salary section where some went down, like for instance, and I'm just wondering, maybe is it, like for instance, I have one on 2110.12004 Highview AIS. So that went down. Are you taking away?
It didn't necessarily go down, Katie. It was how it was. All right. So I really don't know how to explain this.
04?
Yeah.
So I don't really know how to explain this as much as there are too many hands in the pot. So Dr. Macaluso and I are trying to clean it up so that we know who is paid from where and for what. Okay. All right. What does that mean? That means that somebody, we have them, but we have them in a different code. They might be in a federal funds. They might be being paid out of different codes or split between buildings. Let's just say that they're still there, but we're just trying to clean it up. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with this budget, trying to make things more efficient, more transparent, more where are people being paid from? If it's half Highview, half LFJ, part of Highview and part of Bailey, let's just make it so we know where everybody is being paid from.
Thanks.
Is there a certain line you want me to highlight? Okay, so I tend to expect that all things being equal, to teachers' salaries will tend to slowly go up. So as long as the increase is not too great, I'm not surprised. Teachers' salaries may also go down if a teacher retires and is replaced by a less experienced teacher. And so if I see an amount that's within a reasonable range that's less than somebody's salary, I'm not too worried. If I see an amount that's greater than you would pay an entire person for a year, then I say something happened there, and then I raise that if I think that's an issue.
That's correct, David. And I got to tell you, you did bring up a concern in one of the codes, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what the code was, but I did look into it, and somebody retired and we didn't replace them. We kept our, let's say that it was the English department or the social studies department. We kept them within that category. We didn't replace that person. That's why the amount decreased.
Okay, so let's look, for example, at A2110 123-06 ESL or at RJ Bailey. So we had 204,000 and we're down to 134,000. That looks
right. So that could be a couple of reasons. I mean, I'd have to look into it, but somebody might have left at a higher salary. We hired somebody at a lower salary, and or we didn't replace a person.
Correct. In which case, could you look that up and get back to me?
Of course.
So that's A2110.123-06
okay.
0000.
Yep, you got it.
Okay. Okay. See, am I on page 17? Yes, I am. And I think there was another one on this page. 2110 130. Not. So you go from 130 to 91. So I'm guessing that's another.
Yep.
Another instance in which that happened. So
Correct.
so just note 130. .05 2110
Okay.
130.05. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I think I have more of the same on this page. Woodlands Middle High School math towards the bottom of the page. 130.08.006. So you're going from $1 million to $922,000, right? So I think math is important. So I'm saying, hey, why is it going this direction? Again, is it that we hired people significantly less expensive? But that looks like more than $50,000. So the question is, why did it go down?
Correct. All right, I'll look into it.
Okay. And I think I have one more. Well, on the next page, page 18. Should be 3 lines down. Let's see. Well, that's actually the opposite. So here we have
Yeah.
an instance in which we have an AIS salary. So this has got to be a movement, right?
Yeah,
You have an
it is.
$11,000 item to a $250,000
Yeah.
item. So what moved?
All right, so that is, if you remember, I explained it to the board that is our,
Yeah.
that is our movement of staff. All right, so who we have maybe forgotten or omitted, this is the people that we need to include. Let me give you an example. If you remember, just recently, the high school has said that they need another teacher secretary according to contract. All right, they haven't had it for years. Now they want it. So I need to include that. The high school office only has one secretary. Every other office has two secretaries. Matt Smith has not required that or has asked for that. Now he is. It's those additional kind of things. I put that money in there for what could be anticipated.
Okay, so we're anticipating a relatively large increase in salary. So this is not a shift of teacher resources.
No,
towards
right.
AIS.
So
you're not taking existing salaries and moving them
no,
to the
so
AIS category?
think about it this way, David. Those two secretaries are probably going to be 80,000 plus. Let's just say we have another influx of students and we need another ENL teacher. It would come out of that money.
Okay, that's why it's where it is.
Correct.
All right, two secretaries. Yes, Chris.
All right, just since you're talking about this, we can't get into details right now, but just wanted to know, are we, is the board going to get the detailed version before next Tuesday's meeting? Because there were, you've indicated that you've made some updates, because there were some questions that we can't discuss right now, because they were about individuals. I just wanted to know if we're going to get the detailed report so we can see those changes before Tuesday's meeting.
No, I don't think you are, because we don't know any of those specific details.
Okay, so I'll shoot you an email just to know.
You got it.
what I've meant. Okay, thank you, and sorry for the vagueness.
Okay. So I don't have anything this side of page 22. Does anyone else have anything this side of page 22? Okay, physical education, arts, 21, 22, I think it's along the same lines. Yeah. Teaching, regular school, Woodlands High School contract, EXP goes from 149 down to 100 even. So it's in a downward direction. So did we let go of a contract that we don't need anymore?
We either did that or it was a private school that we didn't have to contract with.
Okay.
Again.
Okay, that makes sense. So put that on your list, 2110 400-08. Okay. Anybody else on this page? My next my next question is on page 25. This shouldn't just be the Dave show. If other people have questions, please feel free.
Sorry, David, can you go back to the one you were just asking about, the 400-08? Just show that to me. I want to know if it's what I think it is.
2100, say 400?
I don't know, the one you were just asking about.
-08, teaching, going from 149 down to 100 even.
Gotcha, okay.
Woodlands High School.
Yep, gotcha.
Contract. Page 25. A little more than halfway down. I'm looking for 2250, 150.03. Special education, F. Jackson instructional salaries, there I'm going from 429 down to 346.
Again, David, that is probably because people have left. We've hired new and we've hired them at a lower salary.
Okay, and so then the same thing would apply to the following line from 494 to 379.
Correct. Yep.
So you think it's all staff turnover? Okay.
Correct. Yep. Mhm. The major part of any budget is salaries and benefits. And I got to tell you, my staff is probably like sick of me just going with them. And we look at every salary and try to project it forward.
All right, so now let's look at the top of the next page. We go from 105 to 204, special ed high
Okay,
view
that is-
teacher assistant salary. So that's going up.
That's going up, and I'll tell you why that's going up. If you remember, the principals said during COVID that they needed additional help, and we decided that we were going to hire teacher assistants
Mhm.
in each building, and we were going to put them in the classrooms to help the teachers and/or teachers that weren't available that were going to be in the classrooms. And that was part of it could be part of our American Rescue Plan. It might be. It shouldn't be in this budget if that is what it is, but that's why we hired all of those extra teacher assistants to help in every building with instruction.
Okay, so that's a question as to whether it belongs here because it might be coming out of ARP aid.
Right,
So-
but right
so
now, I gotta say that we should keep it here because, it all depends on what we're gonna do with our ARP money.
Carol Allen?
On page 28, item 2250.470-010000, special ed admin tuition. That's a pretty large expenditure, which did go up. Can you explain to us what that is, please?
All right, so let me scroll up to page 28. All right, I'm on 28. Give me the number again.
2250.
2250.
470-01.
01 right
Okay.
there.
So what that is private tuition. Those are our special education students that we have to place outside of our district, and that's the tuition we have to pay. And that includes an increase for the next school year.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And that was the same thing that I had circled coincidentally. Very good. Okay. All right. So did we leave anybody behind besides Carol? You've still got your hand up.
Excuse me.
All right.
Hi, just a
So
quick question.
yeah, go ahead.
Just piggybacking on Carol Allen, is there any, are you permitted to estimate how many children this covers roughly?
Oh, that is all, I would have to consult with Nick Giarusso, the Director of Special Ed. That all goes through him. And when they do the IEPs, the annual IEPs of where our students are.
Okay.
Some students are integrated part of the day. Some students are integrated all of the time. Some students are in special classes that are of limited size.
Correct.
So there might be, you can only be in a class with 12 people. You may have to have a certain number of TAs in the classroom as well as the teacher. And it varies. Right? And they add it all up and it finds its way into the budget. Okay, so my next question was on page 30. Anyone have anything before that? Okay, school librarian. There's educational TV. Educational television, 2620-160. And we lost, is it true that we lost head count for educational television?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, that's what I thought. Yes. Okay, then on the next page. Computer assisted instruction, district services from BOCES, 2630-49000. We went from 200,000 to 297,000. I assume our BOCES services headcount went up. Is that one person or is that more than one person?
More than one person.
Okay. Okay.
And just a clarification, Lisa, that's also aidable, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Then I don't have anything this side of page 35. Does anybody have anything before page 35? All right, so I'm going to start scrolling through. Athletics WHS instructional salaries went from 205,000 down to 146,000. So we're coming out of COVID. So it seems to be going in the wrong direction. What's happening here?
Well, I based it basically on what we have paid in the last 3 years.
Okay, so actual. So this is a correction.
Correct.
Actuals have
Yep.
been lower. So 3 years back is before COVID, right?
Yeah.
So that's an average of the 3 years? Wait, what number are you on? 2855.
Yeah. It's the average of all of the year. Yeah. Yep.
All right, we will soon know the answer to that. Okay. Then page 36 as to whether that will work. I think I know the answer to this one. So we have $100,000 transportation non-instructional supervisor. Yeah.
Correct. That
okay.
if you
And it went to
remember-
BOCES, right? So the
Correct.
100 went to 0, but this is 110. Okay,
Correct.
good.
Yep.
Moved position to BOCES.
Yep.
Okay, and that's aidable, I assume. Then towards the bottom of the page, contract transportation, regular transportation. Oh, I think that's okay. I think that this going up is basically inflation and what's contractually allowed, correct?
Yep,
Okay.
correct.
Can't do anything about that. Okay, so I'm done with my comments. I'm going to scroll my way through, and anybody else that has any other comments, call them out. Let me know. Right, we're into insurance, which that's a contract negotiation, and how many
We have
options
no
you have, and that's
control
it.
over.
Okay, so that's a pass through the budget on a line by line basis. It's about that's the 40-page version. The board has gone in and looked at the 70-page version in which all the individual people's salaries are called out. But this is what normally we get to look at. Are there any questions in general about the budget that have not been answered? 7:30. Okay, very good. So now,
I just have a general question, please.
yes.
Are there any new positions that are being established here?
Yes, in this budget, Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso and I are proposing a couple of positions. One is a math coach, a literacy coach, and a resource room teacher. Those are the 3 positions we're proposing.
What is a resource room teacher?
Okay, so in the high school, they are proposing a resource room teacher that would bring in a special ed population into a classroom with another teacher to try to, and I apologize because I'm not curriculum, but integrate this classroom into what else is happening in their day so that they can transition properly.
Okay, so to piggyback, are there any positions that are being eliminated?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
Thank you.
Miss Ellen.
Katie?
Well, I guess I wanted clarification because I asked Dr. Iverson that question recently. No, I asked, it was about with the addition of a ELA coach and a math coach, shifting any positions or eliminating any, because I know we have a literacy specialist.
So with
she
the
said they
position
were
that
going-
they're proposing for the literacy coach would encompass all of that. So it's not so much that we would be eliminating that, but we would be encapsulating all of that work into one position.
Right, so that person, there's a person doing literacy work, but that role would no longer be that role, right? It would be the coach role? Or it would encompass what it's a person, what that
It would go, right, it would go to the coach role,
Whatever the-
exactly. Yep.
Right, we're trying to dance around and not talk about the
So it's
person, just the position, right?
Yes, it's not
Right.
the, and, right.
Right. No, it would go, you're exactly right. It would encapsulate all into the math coach or the literacy coach role.
Literacy coach, because I don't want people thinking we have the current literacy specialist and then there's going to be an additional coach.
No,
a second
no.
person and a math coach. There's
No.
not going to be 3 people, there's going to be 2 people.
Correct, correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Jessica,
Sorry, one of the other questions I had, and you provided this to us last year, was for transportation, a breakdown of students who are in district and out of district. I think you were actually able to give us a number of routes last year and how many students, which was really helpful to know. So if we could get that breakdown out of
And
transportation.
you know what, that's an excellent question, Jessica, and I would ask you to wait till after April 1st, because April 1st is the deadline for out of district transportation, and Mr. Gunn is getting all of that. I can tell you right now, without exact numbers, we transport our students from our district to 57 right now, 57 different private schools. He will know better after probably April 2nd, because April 1st is the deadline, and we could get that to you. We are like the nexus of people being able to go where they want to go. And he really, alone from transportation just in district, he transports to 57 other private schools. So it's huge, but I can get that number for you probably at our next meeting.
That sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gabriella?
Sorry, I'm here. My screen just went a little dark. Sorry, just to circle back on the math coach and the literacy coach. Is that something that will be at each school or at a specific school?
No,
I'm not
it
sure.
will be a math coach and a literacy coach for the whole district. So they will encompass every school, and they will involve every school in whatever it is that they are doing.
Got it. And that would be, I guess, divided up based on need basis and
you know what? I don't want to answer your question because I'm not a curriculum person. I will forward that to Dr. Macaluso. I'm
Linda
pretty
Iverson
sure
just
that
entered
it
the
is-
waiting room.
Oh, is he?
Let's see if Dr. Iverson mystically appears. She may have
Oh,
been
there you go.
appearing on cue.
It's not fair to put her on the spot right away.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I don't
Dr.
want to
Iverson, can you hear us?
Yes. All right, Dr. Iverson, they have a question about the math coach and the literacy coach and the involvement in every school. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the lady's name. If you could.
Gabriella.
Gabriella, if you could reintroduce your question, maybe Dr. Iverson could answer it.
Sure, no problem. Hi, Dr. Iverson.
Hi.
I just raised a question. I'm just trying to understand. It was mentioned a little bit earlier about a math coach and literacy coach. And my question was if that's going to be a coach at every school or if it's and I guess Lisa, you said it's a coach for the district, not assigned to a specific school.
That's right. It's a district position, yes.
Okay. And then that person, I guess, would work with each school and kind of see, I guess, what the need is and who needs help, who doesn't need help, or is that on a different, I guess, discussion? I don't want to take up time if it's not appropriate for this committee. I'm just trying to understand the role. That's it.
Yeah, so it's these district positions will provide instructional support to the district and all the buildings. So we're drafting the description of what that will look like. But yes, they will support the district initiatives across in all of the buildings. So they will have a schedule where they visit and are in all of the buildings working with coaching teachers around the initiatives that we're rolling out, as well as literacy and math in general. And we'll be focusing as well on math next year. So the math coach around the strategy we identified, they will be delivering that support and doing a lot of the professional development even on the strategy at our professional developments at PLCs. They will work with me and Dr. Macaluso and be those persons in the building, hands-on implementing and directing and supporting teachers around the new strategies that we are going to be initiating next year.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Allen.
I would like to ask if we have considered partnering with any of the nearby school districts regarding transportation for students who are out of district. For example, if Elmford has a student who's going to Briarcliff and they have to drive through Greenburgh to get there, could they provide transportation for our student and we would reimburse them?
Yes, Dr. Allen, excellent question. Frank Gunn has worked with all of our neighboring school districts, even districts that are outside of our boundaries, to try to work with everybody. Could you pick up my kid to go here? Could I pick up your kid to go there? Yes, we definitely have, definitely.
And we have been successful in transporting a small portion of our students in that manner?
Well, I would say yes and no. We have been successful with kids that we could transport. Not always. And Frank has, I really have to tell you, he has been ingenious in how he has been able to transport some of our students. They might be 1 or 2 students that have to go to the Bronx or have to go to Carmel or have to go to, Mayapack. And he has been really successful with piggybacking with other districts to get our students to where they have to go. I have to tell you, we are 17 drivers short right now. And he has made it work. I don't know how. I don't know how he's done it, but we are getting our kids where we have to get them. And we are doing what we need to do within the law, within our boundaries to get our students to their school that they want to get to. So it's a challenge. I can't tell you that we're being successful 100%, but we're making it work.
As long as we're trying, that's all that counts. Thank you.
There you go.
All right, very good. Are there any other questions? Gabriella, your hand is still up. Did you have another question?
Nope, sorry, I will take it down.
Chris.
I do. I just want to, Carol's first, Dr. Allen, your first comment earlier about prioritizing money within the budget without increasing the levy, made me start thinking, and I just want to get a general feel from people on the committee. If we were to add in a project, is there any appetite for increasing the levy over that lowered amount, which I don't have it pulled up, the 1.37, I want to say, but still under the cap? I'm just curious, because I've gotten very little feedback from the public. I don't know if there is any
So I can tell you that I occasionally get feedback from RJ Bailey about the auditorium not
That's
being
exactly
open.
what I was going to say, David.
Okay.
If we were to
And
add in another
that means that
project,
we would want to minimally take the asbestos out of there and replace all the auditorium seats. And ideally, you'd fix the roof at the same time, so nothing will happen to the nice new auditorium seats.
well, even if we couldn't do all of that, I just wanted to get.
You can
some
get
sort
the
of-
auditorium open just by doing the seats. And the question is, can you use the repair reserve funds for that?
So, okay, yep, you said basically, I was gonna say, or at least part of it to get it functional for concerts and
Yes.
assemblies, you know, even if it's not perfectly done. I'm just curious what the appetite is out there, at least from the people on this committee, just for a little feedback. Anyone, David?
Carol, did you have something specific you wanted to talk about?
I'd like to ask a question.
Yes.
We have two ways of raising money. One is with the taxes and the second is with a bond.
Mhm.
If we float a bond, then does that mean, is that amount of money included as part of the tax levy, or is it completely separate? The reason I
So
ask-
if we did a bond, the principal and the interest payment would be part of the taxes, would be part of the budget that would make the tax levy. Yes.
I'm not quite sure if that answers what I'm trying to figure out. What
All
I'm
right.
what I'm trying to see is next year, the budget that we calculate will be based on, the tax levy will be based upon this year's budget with our growth factor factored in.
Correct.
If
All right, so
if we have a bond, does that figure count towards the base upon which we're calculating next year's budget?
yes, yes, as long as we're making a principal and an interest payment. So think about it. We're going to propose a budget with a tax levy, with a bond. It's going to be principal and interest that has to be added into the budget to be voted by the taxpayers. If the taxpayers voted on the budget, so let's say, Dr. Allen, that it was a $20 million budget. Okay, they voted on it. That $20 million is going to be spread out over 20 years. That principal and interest payment is going to be dedicated every year for 20 years. It's a given because the taxpayers have voted on it and it has to be in the budget.
Okay, but if we need $10 million next year, there are two ways to go about getting it. One, we could hit the taxpayers to take it all out of their pocket this year, or we could spread that cost over 10 years by having a bond, which we then pay back over 10 years.
Mhm.
So it seems to me that it would be much more palatable to keep your budget low and float a bond, because the long-term impact to the taxpayer is lessened by floating a bond.
Yep, you got it. You got it. Yep, exactly.
So we need to come back with a proposal in the short term. Okay.
Well, we need to come back with a proposal in the short term for the capital reserve. That is the mechanism for the capital reserve.
Correct. Katie?
I just wanted to point out that Jessica had put into the chat a question that I think Lisa might be able to answer. Do we have the cost per $100,000 or like an average house in Greenburgh, what the tax change would be?
Oh, I can get that for you. I don't have it right now, but I definitely can get that for you.
Yeah, because I think, I mean, hearing those numbers would help people know whether they have a taste for adding a little more or not.
Yep. Not a problem.
Ashley?
Yeah, I just want to go back to what was said earlier. I would love to do more facilities work underneath our current budget, But the problem is everything I've heard is that folks are concerned with the economic climate that we're in, right? Everyone's costs are increasing, things are going up. If we could do more, I'd be more than happy to do so. But at the same time, I'm concerned that the budget might not pass if we go too crazy. So that's where I'm at. If going back to what Trustee Valen suggested, if more folks feel the other way, maybe it's something we're not aware of, then we can propose making an adjustment to this. But that's not what I'm hearing, which is I think how the board and the central admin ended up where we are, right? That's based off the feedback we were hearing.
Right. So the whole business about you may remember a couple of iterations back in COVID, they were talking about, oh, people haven't had to pay that they can't be kicked out of their houses until a certain period of time has passed, until the crisis is over, and so the crisis is over and the wheels are starting to grind somewhere in the background. And then you have the very high rate of inflation. And so, yes, there's a great deal of economic uncertainty. You have a war in Europe, and then supply side disruptions and natural resource disruptions. And this is not a great time to have a large increase in our budget. But a bond, well, in a minute, where we can go and look at our spreadsheet and see what other funds we have. We may be able to add a little bit onto what we have in other funding sources and cobble something together. Chris?
So I agree with what you guys are saying. I wanted to get the temperature of the committee because I actually haven't heard much feedback from on the budget except from. But I just want to clarify something. Ms. Raymond, can you clarify? So when we do the bond and we spread the payments out over 20 years, for example, depending on the size of the bond, we might take all of it at once, or we might take it in dribs and drabs. And from my understanding, we start paying the principal and interest as we start taking the funding, correct? So if we did a bond this year, the payment amount might not be included just yet in the budget, right?
Well,
that might happen next year or the year after, depending on when we.
Correct. We could dictate how we want to pay it. So let's say not this year, because we're already probably in April. Let's just say we're going to do 22, 23. We could say to the people who are doing the bond, hey, I want my bond to start 23, 24. We could delay it according to our schedule.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Yep. And then what Jessica suggested about the cost per $100,000 or whatever, that is useful. I think it'd be great if we somehow incorporated that into the budget newsletter, because it's a data point that people can understand very quickly. So hopefully if you get that data, you can share that with
Okay, you got it.
Thanks.
Sarah.
Hi, so I just wanted to kind of throw out there that I personally could get on board with the idea of putting a little bit of money into the budget for facilities improvements, just because I know we're saying, oh, keep the budget low, let's do a bond. The reality is we've never passed a bond. So until we start doing that, we just really don't know what we're going to get. And I feel this urgency to get this stuff done. So whatever is going to get this done quicker, and if we go around saying like, oh, the economy is not good for a bond, like it's never going to be good for a bond. Like it was okay for a bond a few years ago and it didn't pass, right? For many reasons. And now we have this crash. There's just like a lot going on. So personally, I would consider putting a little bit into the budget, depending on what we're trying to do.
I would tell you that we did successfully pass a $700,000 bond. So there is a point at which we can pass very small bonds. We know that. We're just looking, somewhere between $114 million and $700,000. Okay. Okay. So good thought. All right. So any other comments or questions? I think it might be useful for us at this point to look at the spreadsheet that Lisa's come up with to see where we stand financially. Would you agree with that? Okay, so let me see if I can make my way. There we go.
All right, so.
All right, talk us through
here-
this, Lisa.
Yep, here is a spreadsheet, and I gotta tell you, Amy, Ashley Moore, and I, and David and Chris Fallon have been working on this endlessly. So this just shows you where we're at, where we were at the end of last year, what we transferred in, what is coming into the capital fund, to the repair reserve fund, to the general fund, what we've paid. And basically it's what we've paid and where the money is dedicated. So I show you here that the general fund has money and where it's going out, where the repair reserve money is in and where it's coming out, and where we want it to come out. All right, so part of the repair reserve that it was $357,500 was coming back to the capital fund for phase one. But what else do we want to happen out of the capital fund? I know it's been a passion for the third grade wing walls and windows to be done. It could come out of that. The Highview and the LFJ doors, exterior doors, could come out of there. So this is just trying to show you where do we have the money and what is coming out of it. That's basically what we're trying to show you here.
So right at this point, we start with a set of funding sources towards the top. We end up doing a bunch of subtraction for various projects, and we come out with a proposed balance as a 630.23, right? So if we only spend what we've already listed from phase one, from the gym floors, from the fire hydrant initiative, all of that, then we end up with $617,000 from, that is the capital fund funding source. And we end up with $1 million sitting in the repair reserve fund. Right?
And you got to remember, David, repair reserve fund is just for repairs. That is the caveat. Repair reserve fund is just for repairs.
And you've got the American Rescue Plan, which money must be used for we can use it for ventilation, right?
That's what we asked for, and that's what they approved.
And we can use that to offset some of the projects that we're taking care of in phase one. Am I correct?
No.
Okay, tell me about that.
Okay, so here's my understanding. We have what we're going to do in phase one, and then we're going to have American Rescue Plan. It's going to add to what we want to do. Right? So let's just say that all of the ventilation costs $10 million. Let's just say it. We have this much from phase one, this much from American Rescue Plan. Here's what we have left to do.
So
go ahead, Chris.
So is that when we'd go back to, I know it's not available tonight, but is that when we'd go back to that spreadsheet that we're incorporating the BCS into, where we can pull down the ventilation?
Correct. Yes.
We have on there identified ventilation included in, and be able to find all of the ones that are not yet. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that I can use it for something that I haven't spent money on. So there's $1.6 million to, yeah.
Right. I would take all of the monies that we have for ventilation, add them together, and don't subtract anything.
May I ask a question for clarification, please? Because I'm a little bit confused.
Okay.
if I'm reading this correctly, what you're telling me is, as of June 30th of 2021, there was $5.79 million in the capital fund, and there was $1.254 million in the repair reserve fund. Am I correct so far? Yes and no.
So,
Up here, $5 million here.
Yep.
$1.2 million here.
Yes.
Total phase one, all right.
So that
So
money
that's what the
was there.
taxpayers had said that we could put with the referendum.
Wait, I'm not
remember,
asking what the
Dr. Allen?
taxpayers say. I'm looking for actual hard dollars on June
Yep.
30th.
Yep.
That's the amount of money that we had in the capital fund.
Correct.
That's how much we had in the repair reserve fund.
You got it.
Okay, good. Now, you're now saying the next paragraph is talking about work that was completed, which is money that was spent. Therefore, that really doesn't affect the two numbers, the 5.79 and the 1.254. Is that correct?
The general fund's expenditures here?
Yes, the 29.
Right.
That
That is money.
Fund.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And now what you're saying is, out of the 5.79, you want to now pull out 1.3 million, or you want to find another 1.3 million to put in to add to the 5.7?
Nope. We're going to add it to that fund and pull it out.
Okay, so you're saying that out of the budget for this year, you want to pull out $1.3 million to spend on the floors, the hydrant systems. You want to add that 1.3 to the 5.7 that's already there?
Nope. Dr. Allen, here's what we're saying. From that money, the 5.790, we're going to add 1.3 million. We're going to pull out.
Okay, so you are adding the 1.3 million
Yes,
to the
yes,
5.7.
Yes.
Okay. And then you're also saying that you're going to pull 1.426.
Yeah, that's
somewhere?
yep, that's excess fund balance.
Okay, that money is there to be transferred, or you're
Yes,
hoping that
yes.
it will be there?
Nope, that money is there.
So right now we have a total of 8.343 million in the capital fund, and we have 1.254 in the repair reserve fund.
Correct.
Okay, and now just below that, you're having the money that you want to spend out of the 8.356. Okay. So
And
you want to
again,
spend, you
Dr.
want to
Allen,
spend
these-
7.726 million out of the capital fund. and
Correct.
You want to spend 212,000 out of the
Correct.
repair reserve fund.
And let me just preface this with, these are estimates. I don't know, these are what we have from our contractors. I don't know that this is going to be the exact numbers.
Right, understood. I just
Maybe
want
lower.
to understand that we're reading correctly.
Correct.
All right,
Yep,
so what
you
we're
got it,
saying is
Dr. Allen.
we have $8.3 million and we want to spend 7.7 of it, which would leave
Correct.
us with 617,000.
Correct. You
Okay,
got it.
thank you.
Dave?
Okay, for the 1.3 million you're pulling from the general fund transfer to the capital fund, where's that 1.3 million coming from?
It's coming from the general fund. It's already budgeted in that previous budget.
And if the third, okay, so that isn't going to be reflected on top where it says general fund column, the third column, that would have been,
No,
that's living in 2022, 23.
correct.
So you wouldn't have, okay. There wouldn't be an add and a deduct in the general fund column to reflect that
Nope.
1.3 million? Okay.
Nope.
Because she's transferring it over to this other fund. Carol, do you still have your hand up for a reason?
The reason is I didn't put it down yet.
Okay. So, as I was saying, when we get down to the bottom here, we aren't out of money. We have a significant amount of money, right? So if you reach a point at which you get here and you've got $600,000 here, $1 million here, and $1.6 million there, there's funding. There are needs. So if, for example, the one that I used was the R.J. Bailey Auditorium, you could use some of this money in that direction. Katie.
Hi. This just, while we're talking about this, I just wanted to raise an ancillary point that, it's around the budget time that people hear, oh, what we want to do with the money next year, with the fire hydrants and the gym floors. But I think, and that's great, it goes into the Falconer and everything. I would like to see this kind of stuff also talked about the whole year through, like to the general public a little more, so that it's not just those of us at these committee meetings that know some of the things that we had to spend our money on, like when the TV studio flooded at Woodlands, or the other things that happen throughout the year. So I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there as like maybe a little corner, a facilities corner in the Falconer or something every 4 times that it comes out or something. So because if we're talking about a bond in the future, people need to be up to date the way this committee is up to date on what the state of the facilities are and what the needs are and what the building condition survey said and things like that. So
PR effort. Okay. Faisal.
Sorry, I'm on my phone, but I had 2 quick questions. One for either Ms. Raymond or for the trustees. If we could go back up to the actual funding we have in the Capital Reserve Fund, we can go up to the top. How much of this fund, that money we have, is actually cyclical, in the sense that we will have funding sources from these various funds in 23, 24, 24, 25? Because if we're doing a strategic plan and we're working on that end, we need to have a flow of money that comes in, right? So how much of this, which part? The
2019, 2020, the 1.3, and there's something close to 1.3 right there. That we tend to keep $1.3 million per year. So if we get to the end of the next year, if all goes well, we'll have another $1.3 million coming in, and so that will continue to accumulate. I'm sorry. So, did you want to say something?
No, exactly that.
Okay.
This money is designated for those items.
So the 1.3 million will be for the capital fund itself, which can go to both repairs and new improvements, correct? The reason I'm asking is that it doesn't seem like we have any money in the repair reserve for the next 2 years if we move the 1.3 to the capital fund. So if it's in the capital fund, can we do both repairs and new improvements, or do we have to divide that money up? I'm just looking towards sources for the next 2-3 years. Like, how would that work?
Okay, so the repair reserve is designated exactly for that, repairs. It has to be repairs. It can't be replacement. So we have 1.25 million that we can designate that for repairs. And it has to be designated as a repair.
Right. Sorry, I guess my question wasn't clear. Can we use capital fund money for repairs?
No.
All right. So then my question is, next year, not 2022-23, but 23-24, do we have any money going into the repair reserve from our current budget? Do we have any funding sources for that?
No. Nope.
So technically we have only 1.3 million in the next year in our budget for any improvements or repairs we want to do.
Correct. Yep.
All right, so then for the future, we need to find additional sources for more money if you want to do more improvements, repairs, etc.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Over.
Chris. It's 8:08.
Yep, and along those same lines, I've asked this before and I feel like I know the answer, but just to clarify, because we have to decide by April 19th if we're going to put a proposition on the May budget vote. For the past few years, we've put on a proposition that allocates unused monies to the repair reserve fund. As Ms. Raymond just indicated, we may not do that this year because we have probably more replacements and new capital projects rather than repairs. And from the proposition that we just did in December, I think you guys have explained to me that we don't need to do a proposition to fund the capital reserve fund because this one covered funding it. It says the 2021 capital reserve fund being funded by monies derived from the unappropriated fund balance of the district as directed from time to time by the board. Or from
And the language in Proposition 1 did in fact say that
or
the
from
board
existing
can do that.
reserve
Yeah.
funds, blah, blah, blah. So we don't need a proposition in May to do this if we were going to. Okay, I just wanted to verify that because time is running short on that deadline then.
Right?
Okay.
Okay, other questions or comments? So we're going to be looking forward to an upcoming proposal from the administration on what we can do to increase our facilities efforts. And I have the label for that as having been phase 2. And whether that's coupled with whether that's a small thing or whether it's coupled with a larger effort, we'll have to look at that. Carol.
I wanted to follow up on Faisal's question. How do we continuously replenish the repair reserve so that there's always money there for the repairs?
All right, so we can continue to put money in there from year-end fund balance. But we have to remember that the repair reserve has to be for repairs, not for anything else. And that is the key. We can keep it open, and I want to keep it open, but it's got to be for a minimal amount. So right now there is a lot of money in there, and it could be, we could spend it for repairs, and we should spend it for repairs. The board should pass resolutions to do the work that is needed to be done. But we can continue at the end of the year. When we do the budget vote, we can say that anything that is in excess of X millions of dollars could go to the repair reserve. It definitely can. And it probably should, Miss Allen.
So should our committee be making a recommendation to the board that we have that proposition on the budget vote, that the excess money be transferred to repair reserve?
All right, so here's the conundrum. So if we have excess fund balance, let's just say we have $1.5 million excess. Would you want it to go to the capital reserve so that we could do a project, or do you want it to go to the repair reserve for quote unquote repairs? Yep.
Shouldn't we do both?
We could do both. It says, anything in excess up to 500,000 could go to the repair reserve. Anything over would go to the capital reserve. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. We could do it. But I think right now we have probably $1 million in the repair reserve. And I think that's sufficient. I agree with you that we should in the future kind of designate that, but
not this year.
Oh, well, you know what? It's up to the committee, and it's up to everybody what you think. where do you think it should go? Should it go to complete reconstruction, repair, whatever? Or should it go to repairs and maintenance? And that's kind of the, like, the,
So you come up with your proposal for what you want to do next. What's the highest priority?
Right.
And then you look and say, where does my money need to go this year in order to fund those priorities? And then you make that decision every year.
exactly. Yep, exactly. Mhm.
Dave?
I was just looking back at the budget. There are like 3 separate categories for repairs, maintenance of grounds, and upkeep of the buildings, and it spans between 150 to 250,000 per for each of the buildings, 6 buildings. Now, how concrete are those numbers, and could we take money, any leftover from the budget, and move it into the repair reserve?
No, I don't think you can take any of those monies and move it into the repair reserve, because those are really like Band-Aids. I hate to say it, but our buildings are bad. We need major work, and what we have budgeted is to help sustain, to make school, run.
So if there's some asbestos tile that in the Lee F. Jackson hallway, and we glow coat it to death to get through the year, but we've got to have some money to go out and repair that hallway. That's
correct. Correct. Mhm.
Chris.
So piggybacking on what Faisal and Carol were saying, so 2 thoughts. Maybe not for this year. I like the idea that we could split it, and we do need to look at it every year to see if it needs replenishing via proposition. But maybe by the end of the year, we could identify in the BCS what is a repair versus replacement or capital project. And that kind of ties in, identify from the BCS and what in phase 2 is a repair, because that might identify how much we'll be possibly using out of the repair fund versus putting it in a bond, right? But on a similar track for hopefully within a shorter time frame, I want to go back to I'm sorry to be harping on the Bailey Auditorium. What can we do to make it safe and functional? Because that's impacting their educational offerings right now. If they're not able to do sports and plays and assemblies, is whatever needs to be done to get that safe and functional a repair that, maybe then if we find out that
a replacement,
$100,000 of work, we put that as use the excess from the repair fund that will be allocated for this usage. I'm just throwing it out there.
That sounds like a Fred Seba question to me. Fred, are you there?
I am here, yes. So if you're looking at abatement of floor tile, for instance, that would not be considered a repair. Same thing with replacement of the seating. If you could repair the seats, bring in some different hardware and repair them and keep the same seats and make them operational, that would classify as a repair. But by repairing them, if they have to be replaced, then that would be a capital project. It would not fall under the repair reserve. And I think that's the limitations of a repair reserve.
Okay, so my understanding is that the seats are so old that there are no replacement parts left for them, nor have there been for several decades. So they've attempted to cannibalize the balcony, but there was only so much they could do. There's actually I think a row or 2 at the back where they actually did a replacement. But they really need to clean out the whole thing. All right, so that, in other words, it's not repair reserve funding we're looking for there. It's more, so capital reserve will work. Is that correct?
David.
Yes.
David, sorry, and maybe this is a Mr. Falcone question, but because I'm kind of out of the loop. Why are we not using Bailey's Auditorium? In the beginning, it was COVID, but now I'm hearing
there are over 100 seats that don't work.
Right. So the seating has been an issue for years, but there's now more seating not available. Therefore, it's not.
Right.
Theoretically, if you had smaller audiences at a concert, is it safe like, are there other issues that is not making it usable for smaller?
We're reaching the point at which the principal of the school is saying, I don't feel like I should really bring my kids into this room.
Okay, so that sounds like more than seating. Bless you.
It is seating. So if you have broken seats and pieces of seats and frames of seats that, and you're afraid to take things out because of the tile issues, then you've got too many places where people can get hurt.
Okay, so what you're going back to, Mr. Seba, those seats don't exist anymore. We're talking replacement. That's not a repair. Therefore, this could not come out of repair reserve fund. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be great to get an estimate of what's needed to get it functional, ideally before budget time.
Yes. And we do have a building condition survey and we can work from there.
Okay, thank you.
That is a good request. Okay, other questions or comments? It's now 8:18. I think at this point, we're not going to work through all of the items in the agenda if we want to achieve our major goal, which is actually going to happen in closed session. So I would suggest, let's go back to the agenda here. Let's see if I can find it. And in the absence of Mike Falcone. Okay, so we've already gone over the fact that we have the $814,000 approved for an emergency for upgrading the fire hydrants. What do we have to do in terms of next steps in order to move forward on this, Fred?
So the next step would be for us to get some survey and topo work done of that and an overall site plan drawn so that we can get the exact locations of all of those hydrants and lines. Right now, what we have drawn is taken off of Google Earth.
Mm-hmm.
While it's approximate, it's not exact. So that would be the next step, is to bring in a surveyor and to have them do some survey and topo work so that we can let our contractors know exactly where it runs, what the grades look like, whether they have to go deeper, more shallow, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the next step for us.
Okay, and we passed a resolution that authorizes such activities at the board level along with the money. So we can go forward with that. Ashley.
Yeah, I just want to make reference to the fact that this was brought up during the previous meeting as a request to look into feasibility for a community development block grant. That request was made to the town of Greenburgh. They did reply with the contact to further investigate that. That information has been passed over to Trustee Warner, who's going to reach out. I'm not sure if he had a chance to reach out yet about determining if in the future there's some way the town can help us with reimbursement for that portion. Thanks.
Okay, good reminder. Chris?
So we've heard the next steps from Mr. Seba. Are there next steps as far as filing the past resolution with NICEAD? So we're within the framework of being considered an emergency, or is there anything that we need to do there?
Fred?
I would say no. I think that your local fire departments have made arrangements and alternative plans in order to be able to fight a fire on that piece of property. At this point, in order to declare it an emergency, it still has to be designed. It still has to go through the state education department. The only thing that emergency declaration really alleviates is the need to publicly bid it. So that's really only maybe a 3 or 4 week period of time. That's really the only thing an emergency does for you. In the meantime, for the board to declare an emergency, I think is going to make certain people concerned about children's safety. So I don't know if emergency declaration is really necessary in this.
It's done.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Good. Okay. So I'm going to forego going over the status of all those facilities projects at this point. You have access to this. You can read this, and Mike will get together with Mike Falcone or whoever and possibly we may end up with a new facilities director because Mike is, as of the end of May, I believe he's retiring. So we'll get back to this, but in the interest of time, I'd like to move on. Did anybody have any facilities questions before I move on? Okay, hearing none.
I would like to publicly thank Ms. Raymond and Mr. Falcone for getting the lighting up on campus. Thank you.
And thank you to Mike Falcone for working on getting the lighting up in the campus. Okay.
You are most welcome.
Okay, we've done the facilities project analysis cost summary. That was the spreadsheet we just looked at. The mansion we've already talked about. Phase 2, we talked about what we've already told what the priorities for that are, and we're looking forward for a proposal from the administration on this once we get the energy performance contract out of the way. Anybody have any other concerns that they want to bring up before we go off into closed session? Hearing none.
I move that we adjourn to session to discuss,
The energy performance contract RFP.
thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, so we're about to go into closed session. Zach, we need to go offline.
Got it. I'll stop the live stream.
And with the understanding that that this is, we're probably not going to, we will have to come back into open session to make a decision and record that. But
Okay.
so we're not done for the night, but we're going off